Well, hello and welcome. We're underway right on 9 a.m. here in Australia. Hello, Will. Thanks for getting in the chat there. If anyone else is there and got their chat on, so to speak, say hello. And be good to hear where you're from and what's going on where you are. So here on the east coast of Australia, we're just nearly at spring. So it doesn't get really cold where we are, but we complain about the cold in winter anyway. But we're ready for a long, hot summer. I know our friends over in California have had a tremendous time with the wildfire season there, and we had a massive wildfire season here in Australia last year, and there are concerns for another big one this year because even though so much of our country burnt last year, there's still more that could possibly go. So here's hoping we have a safe summer coming up. So this week, let's have a look at what's underway. So the midweek mastermind is for B2B business owners. So there's a lot of references, particularly when we get into the client acquisition, client maintenance, client ascension work. A lot of special references there in B2B that just are different to, say, hospitality or retail or direct-to-consumer style businesses. So that'll really sort of come into its own as we move forward. But it's for business owners who want to take the lead and who want to lead through these difficult times. Everyone is talking about difficult times, and I think that there are people who are focused on saying that, well, that those times will pass. We don't know when, but they'll pass, and I want to make sure that my business is in the best position it can be for when growth times come back to us. And so there's a small percentage of the business community who are thinking like that. A lot of people are worried, understandably so. I don't want to take anything away from that, but I've put this together for those who want to take the lead and make sure their business comes back bigger and better than ever before. So in this session, I'm going to look at the pinnacle of the strategic planning piece. Sometimes that strategic planning is made out to be a bit more complex or sophisticated than what it really needs to be. And I believe for small business owners, when it comes to planning, it's important to start where you're at. Do the best plan you can with what you've got and what you know right now. And then as time goes forward, continue to improve that and improve it. So you may start with a very simple plan. You might have half a page of strategic plan and a handful of bullet points of action plan. And that might be all you're ready to do. But if you keep that close to you and you keep referring to that and Yes. There are some slides. Let me put the desktop on. Yes. Thanks, Will, for the reminder. But if you keep, even a simple plan, if you keep referring to that and using that as you move forward, then what will happen is your planning will become a little bit more sophisticated. It'll become more rich in its content. You'll be able to involve more people in that. And ultimately, if you're going to lead a business that's got other people around you, so team and stakeholders and so forth, so that you can shed off some of the work and actually enjoy a lifestyle in business, you will need a plan that everyone understands, is working to and is committed to. Otherwise, you're the only one holding everything in your head, and then ultimately when decisions need to be made or difficult times come along, then you're going to be left holding the can as well. So planning is incredibly important, and I encourage you to start where you're at, and even if that's one page. What you'll see today is some of the things that you can start thinking through. In some of my advanced courses, I go into great detail and guide people through how to develop a strategic plan and an operational plan, and indeed sales and marketing plans as well. But today will give you a lot of food for thought. And if you take some notes on today and then give yourself some quiet, focused time in the next few days to sit down and really nut through this stuff. And we'll be talking about using the power of imagination that we spoke about last time, seeing where you want to be in your business and starting to use that as a yardstick to nut out your plans. You'll get a lot out of this. There's no doubt about that. So right now, what I'm seeing, and you may have different experience no matter where you're coming from around the world, but what I'm seeing, many business owners are rethinking. They've been forced to do that. Some of the older generation are rethinking whether they want to stay in business or not. Yeah. Um, Others are rethinking, are they in the right business? Have they got the right product or service mix? Are they serving the right target audience? So there's a lot of rethinking going on, re-strategizing. People are trying to pivot. That word's used a lot. Sometimes it's used by sort of wet behind the ears MBA grads, and I know that sounds fairly judgmental, but sometimes there's a lot of big management speak used by those who may not have the practical feet on the street wherewithal. So pivoting is just really a fancy pants word for changing direction. It's got to do with using the resources you have in your business at the moment. So your people, equipment if you've got it, supply lines, connections, know-how, and doing something different. For a great example of that is in our hometown here in Brisbane, a boutique distillery. Obviously, serving clubs and pubs and those sorts of things took a dive because the clubs and pubs and restaurants all got closed for a period of time. They were able to use their stock before it went off to brew alcohol, so high content ethanol alcohol. I'm not a chemist, I may have said that wrong. To then be able and then go to the next step of making the hand sanitizers. So they had a whole range of equipment and know-how and skill that they could quickly turn and create a new product. And they've done exceptionally well for themselves. They've had some very, very good months as a result of that. And when you think about that, what did they change? Well, obviously they changed the recipe of what they made. The packaging was different, bottles with a pump top instead of a screw top lid. But on the surface of that, not a lot in the main infrastructure of the business had to change, and they had a whole new product line and a whole new set of customers. So that's really what pivoting is about, as one example. Some businesses are also doubting. They're doubting whether or not they'll come through this. And look, it's it's an interesting time to think about that. I think, if you're wondering whether or not your business is going to survive and should you be in it, I'd be seeking some pretty strong financial advice from your accountant, looking at a forward projection cash flow and really drawing a line in the sand to say, well, look, if it gets to a certain point, we do have to make some dramatic changes. But until then, we're going to roll up our sleeves and go for it as well as we can. You see, when the doubting mind has come to set, it's really hard to do the thing above it, so to pivot or re-strategize or to get up and move in a different direction. If that sort of doubting mindset is there, it's very, very difficult to do anything new and different or any sort of breakthrough. So if you think back to what we talked about last week, there's those powers of self-awareness to understand where you're at, what's your mindset at the moment, and then ask yourself the obvious question: is that going to help me get to my goal? If it's not, how do I need to change my mind, change my mood, change my attitude? And you can do that. It's hard. You can do that, and you may have to do that multiple times through the day. That's the key. So they talk about mindset. I think of it as setting your mind, and understand that sometimes like an old watch, you have to reset it multiple times through the day, particularly when you're going through difficult times where the seeds of doubt have really come home to roost, and you're in tough times anyway. So that's what I'm seeing. Now, there is a need for some certainty as a part of all of that. So where do you get certainty from in highly uncertain times? Well, I can remember a session I did with a room full. It was actually an after-dinner speech. It was a room full of senior police officers here in our state, and there was a period of time where there was a lot of change in the government ranks, and literally it was like taking the government departments and sort of tipping all the pieces out on the ground and sorting through them and putting them back together again. And people were losing their jobs, and a whole range of things happened for a period of a couple of years there. And I was talking to senior leaders, and they said, well, look, how can we give sort of certainty and strength when we don't even know what's going on? And so they were finding it difficult because obviously from way up in these massive organisations, the thinking and the strategizing and the information wasn't making its way down. But what they were stuck on there was the how-to. They didn't know what the how-to was looking like. And what I talked to them about was the why-to. So I said, why are you here? Why did you sign up to be a police officer? What was the motivation? And we had some discussion around that, and really it was the desire to serve and protect. That's why people are attracted to the police service. It's not because of the night shift hours you've got to do or the wonderful members of society that you have to deal with. It's that purpose-driven sense of contribution that people want to make by serving and protecting the constituents of their communities. And I asked the question, has that changed? Has the purpose of the police service changed? Even though the how-to, the strategies, the funding, the systems, everything's getting a work over, that's all changing. It's very up in the air. But has the purpose changed? And the answer was, well, no, it hasn't. It hasn't changed at all. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today, is to say, well, what is the purpose of the business you're in? That's the pinnacle of the strategic planning piece. And if you reconnect with that, or if you've never really clearly defined it, if you've just got into business and done something really well, looked after your customers and charged forward, and then we have this big prevailing upset, it's a really good time to be able to reconnect with the highest order of thinking in your business, which is the purpose of why do we exist? What contribution do we make? I want to guide you through some of that today and leave you with a little exercise to do so you can clearly articulate that. Because if you are going through the rethinking, re-strategizing, replanning and trying to pivot in your business, you'll need that unchanging core to be there for you. So let's have a look at that. So the strategic planning piece, sometimes call it, but the strategic plan, there's a few statements that go into that. It's not really the place for sort of numbers and spreadsheets. It's the big picture of your little business. So the purpose, the vision. So purpose is about why do we do what we do. Vision, what'll it look like when we've done it? So that's the 5-year view, yeah. And as small business owners, you want to include in that thoughts around what's your exit. So if you are in the baby boomer or the early Gen X, you may be thinking, hey, it might be time for me to open a new chapter in my life. So I may not be in business in the next 5 years. So what does the business need to look like before you hand it over, sell it off, or what have you? So use your imagination to think forward there. What do we need to value? So what do we need to hold near and dear in our day-to-day business activities if we're going to deliver on that purpose and that vision? All of those things run together, but they need to be separate statements. Sometimes people talk about mission. Look, that can go in there as well. Mission's quite sort of a militaristic way. It's very much a headline objective. We're going to take that, that's hill by sunset, or what have you. So it can be like something that sits across the top of all your goals, if you like. So I don't use it all that much. I prefer purpose because it's our compass bearing. It says the direction in which we're heading. What's it going to look like when we get there? What do we need to hold near and dear along the way? And of course, advantage. So that stands for competitive advantage. So there's a bunch of things that go in there. You need to think through, obviously, what makes you unique. How are you going to have a competitive advantage? And I'll get into that in later sessions, but there's only really 3 strategic, sustainable competitive advantages. And for the small business, the best one to go for is actually what we call customer intimacy, or that rock-solid, strong customer relationship, because you've got some advantages there that the big end of town doesn't. The big end of town tends to have business development guys and girls, and they swap over fairly regularly, so that long-term, solid, dependable relationship they can find difficult to do because their personnel swap, get promoted, move to a different department, leave, what have you. Whereas small business, there tends to be a lot more stability, particularly in those senior roles and the top end customer facing roles. And then underneath all of that, what are the major goals? So what are the things that you want to achieve? And that's where you may put down things like your revenue targets and your profit targets. I would run them together. So if you've got a revenue target, I'd put either a profit dollar figure that you want to pull out of that, or percentages in percentage GP and percentage net profit, so that you've got not only the growth factor going on, but you've also got the effectiveness factor. How much is every dollar of revenue producing in terms of profit? And that's a really good measure of how effective and efficiently you're running your business. So that's really the big end of strategy. The key to all of this is not just writing those things down, but making sure that they align. So as you craft and create those, and in my advanced courses I go through this in more detail, you want to sort of be going up and down the line a number of times and making absolutely sure that they dovetail in and they fit in together. And when you have that, you're in a really strong place to be able to onboard new customers, because you can tell them all about who you are and you can paint that difference and they can see that you are unique. Really good for finding, attracting and onboarding new customers. And it's really good for you to be able to educate your suppliers on that, because then they understand what picture you're creating in your business, and the best suppliers will be thinking, how can I help this company with their purpose and vision and competitive advantage and major goals, and work in line with their values. As a supplier, how can I do that through my products and services? If you get to understand this stuff from your own customers, that's how you become invaluable and irreplaceable to your customers. You align your product supply, product or service supply directly into their strategic big picture and become invaluable. It's a really high level of conversation to have, and you must be having that level of conversation with a fairly senior person in the client organization. But that's worth working on too. And as we get into client ascension concepts later on, we'll be talking about how can you work your way through the business or up the client business, up the chain, so you can be having that level of conversation so that you can be making yourself invaluable for that smaller percentage of your A-grade customers. It's not going to work for everyone, but there'll be a percentage of your A-grade customers where this is an absolute must for you to understand that. So that gives you an example of the importance of you crafting this for yourself so that you can understand it from another person's business point of view, and you can get many, many people on board with your own business so it goes through. Okay, just check the questions here to see whether anything's coming through. Okay, someone else has just joined us, so say hello in the chat. That's fantastic. So let's have a look at this little diagram one more time. So the purpose is the why, and the rest of it is really the what and the how, isn't it? We've got to do that first. Hello, Kim. How are you? Welcome along. How is the weather where you are? That's a good question to ask someone, isn't it? And the what and the how we do second. Now, quite often people do that around, well, not around the other way. They just do this bit, right? And this bit's often forgotten. So what we want to do is make sure we get the first bit done. So purpose. Fantastic. Thanks. That's great. In Southport, well, we've got another guest from the Gold Coast online as well. How's that? Fantastic. So most entrepreneurs are fascinated by the what and the how. And I'm not having a go at anyone here. This is very positive. Because as long as you're solving the right problem with the what and the how, you're chasing the right goal with the thinking around the what and the how, you are pursuing the right outcomes, heading in the right direction. So this is about making sure that we're doing the right things. Then we've got to do those right things in the right way. It's the doing things in the right way that can tend to dominate the thinking for entrepreneurs, because we're the problem solvers, we're the creators. It's very important to be able to sort of pull back and to be able to think the why. Why do we do what we do? What contribution are we going to make? those types of things, and then all of the rest of the bits and pieces can really dovetail in quite nicely underneath that. So the reason today why I'm not getting into things like the vision and the values and the competitive advantage is because when we do those, they must be aligning to a strongly held sense of purpose. It's incredibly important. So the purpose, the why, is about the compass, the right things. Yeah, let's make sure we're doing the right things, and the rest of it then is about getting sure they're done in the right way. So think about this as compass and map. And one of the things I see a lot of small business entrepreneurs really focusing heavily on is the map, and they do a good job of that. But map without compass can be difficult. Yeah, it can be very difficult. So purpose equals your compass. It's the contribution you make. It answers the question, why do you do what you do? And why do you do it in the way that you do it? Right? That's really important, because you will have team members in your business that you want jobs done in a certain way. And how are you going to sort of get that across? Well, there's procedure. That you can do procedure and checklists and systems, but you really want them to take that on board and understand that. Then getting involved with the why do we do it is incredibly important. The purpose is what people can believe in, both your team and your customers and your other stakeholders. It's your true north, yeah? It's the essence of what makes you unique. So often from marketing point of view, what's your uniqueness? What's your point of difference? That question is asked. All of that is summed up in your purpose. We'll describe it in a different way, of course, from a marketing statement. So your purpose statement doesn't necessarily have to become a marketing statement. It's an internal statement, but all of the other things that you say and do in your business need to be aligned to that, and that gives you great strength. Most small businesses, especially 1 to 2 man operators, don't even bother about this, but I think it's so important. Yeah, thanks, Will. It is really important because it guides your thinking. If you've ever had a time in your business where you might have thought, look, I'm gone from pillar to post, I've chased down this, I've looked at that, I've tried this, I've tried everything else. What's the one sort of unifying thing in your thinking? And that's where purpose comes in. So it helps you be able to evaluate, even right down to operational challenges or opportunities. What direction should you be heading in? It'll mean a lot to you when you get it done. So use your imagination to develop your purpose. This is a really good way to do this exercise. So picture you and your business 10 years into the future, having been very successful, right? Just get that sense in your mind. And you may want to do this exercise after. I'll have a worksheet on it in the members area. G'day Louise, how are you? Good to hear you again. Fantastic. I'll have a worksheet on this in the members area, so I'll make sure that you can have something you can follow through in this exercise. But here's the go. Here's how to do it. Picture yourself in your business 10 years from now into the future, having been very successful. Picture a luncheon where you're going to be the guest of honor. So it's a luncheon about your business. So that can be in any format or place that you want. It's your exercise. There'll be 5 people who'll make a short speech about your business at that luncheon. 1 will be a customer, 2 will be a team member, a business partner, or a family member. So if you don't have a business partner, throw a family member in there. An industry representative, so it could be a key supplier, it could be a franchisor if you're in franchising, it could be the president of the industry association, whatever. And a supplier or I put stakeholder. I was hungry when I wrote that. No, that's terrible. A stakeholder, yeah. So now what I want you to do is write each of those speeches, yeah? So write them out in longhand. It's very important to do that and not do little bullet points. It takes a little while for you to get your headspace in to do this exercise, but it's really quite interesting to be able to think, what would I ideally like to hear said about my business? Yeah, that's really important. What you'll find when you write all those things out is there'll be a common theme or two that keep popping up throughout those little speeches that you've written. And that's what you need to use then to finish that statement in bold. My business purpose is. Now, that needs to be a statement of the contribution you make rather than a list of to-dos. Right? So I'll give you a hint. If you write your business purpose and it's separated by lots of commas, you've created a horizontal to-do list. Yeah. It really needs to be a sense of contribution. So my business purpose is to inspire and educate other people to be their best. So that's what I do through all forms of education and coaching that I do. That's the contribution that I want to bring. Now there's the how-tos underneath that. So I've got the leadership training and the business coaching and the sales training and all of those things. There's webinars, there's face-to-face, all of that. But that's sort of further down the list. That's the map, yeah? But what's my compass? What's the direction on my compass got to be? That's what we have to work out first. And it will make, if you get that worked out first, you'll know when you've got it because your heart will skip a beat. You'll go, wow, that's it. That means so much to me. That encapsulates it. It's highly, highly motivating to be able to be zoned in or dialed into that sense of purpose. And then when it comes to all of the other aspects of planning that you may have found hard or disinteresting in the past, when you're aligning them back to that sense of purpose, you'll actually find it quite a thrilling experience. You'll be able to do a very robust plan. You might still need a bit of guidance with it, that's okay, but you'll be able to do a really good robust plan. When you're seeking other advice in your business. So particularly when it comes to the marketing piece, there's often some very strong and influential advisors around in that. And if you're not really rock solid, 100% certain about why you do what you do in your business and what the purpose of your business is, you can get really pushed around by those advisors. And you can end up, they speak well, speak fast, they're very convincing. You can end up having an advisor take you down a path that's off purpose for you. Maybe intellectually correct, but off purpose for you and your business. And I'll tell you what, if you're off purpose for you and your business, then you are you're not going to last long. You know, it's very true. Or it's going to be incredibly hard work for you. So that's the little exercise that I wanted you to do in as a result of today's little seminar. So this may feel strange. I've facilitated this with lots and lots and lots of people over the years, and I often do it in a classroom setting. Yeah, I'll get leaders to write down what to come up with what their purpose is as a leader. So senior leaders in organisations, I'll get them to write that down. Business owners, I get them to do it for their business as well. And I can tell you that they're a bit fingers and thumbs when the exercise is on in the first place. It feels uncomfortable to think in this way. Why? Because it's a bit of a philosophical way of thinking. It's not a operational way of thinking. And we are so kept in the operational aspects of our business because we have to. When we get a chance to think more philosophical about big picture items, it can feel strange. That's exactly why you need to do it, because you're obviously not doing enough of it if it feels strange. Yeah. And remember, vision, self-awareness, volition, and conscience all help you. So this sense of purpose, that's a great addition to the conscience of your business. Yeah. A purpose that is higher than self is extremely motivating for most people. If you can get your employees to buy into the sense of contribution or the contribution that your business makes, you know, they'll be motivated. In most cases, I find that even some employees who are behaving poorly, they can get really inspired by this idea of coming to work and doing something that's really worthwhile. And the concept of what's worthwhile is about this idea of what contribution are we making, right? If you want people to change their behavior, if you want them to change the how-to of their behavior, aligning the change to a meaningful reason why, a sense of contribution, will help shift that behavior far more than correcting through a Sorry, I just saw Mark's statement. Thanks, Mark, from the Gold Coast. No lockdown down there yet. Yeah, magnificent down there. You'll shift behaviour of your employees far more quickly if you're aligning them to a reason why. So why shifts people more fully and more quickly than how to any day of the week. So as a business leader, you really need to learn to what I call speak the language of why, which is your purpose, vision, values, that piece, and being able to show your workers how their day-to-day work aligns to that. The leaders who do that really well have the most engaged employees, because most people want to come to work and do something worthwhile and make a difference. Employee surveys around the world have proven that time and again. But what happens, unfortunately, but understandably, our employees aren't the best strategic thinkers. We don't employ them to be strategic thinkers. We employ them to be doers. They're good at being doers. So we have to fill the gap in terms of helping them understand how the work they do before lunchtime today, before morning tea, this piece of work, where does it fit into the overall picture of where we're going to be in 5 years' time? And you might think, how the heck would I explain that? Well, you can't explain it if you haven't clearly articulated purpose, vision, values, competitive advantage, and strategic goals. Once you've got those things articulated, you can then, and all well aligned to each other, you can easily show someone where a small piece of work fits into that big picture. Incredibly motivating for your staff. Invest the time in this level of thinking. It sets your thinking. It sets up your thinking for all other elements of your strategic and business planning, and that's the explanation that I just gave you. So look, if you need help developing a strategic plan or a business plan, reach out to me on james@jamesmcnamara.com.au. But other than that, go ahead and write your purpose statement. Think about yourself at a luncheon that's held in your business's honour in 10 years' time, and there's going to be 5 people there to speak about your business. There'll be a customer, there'll be a team member, there'll be a business partner or family member, there'll be a industry representative, and there'll be another sort of supplier / stakeholder. And they're all, and imagine what you'd ideally want to hear them say about your business. Write that down. Take the time to write it out longhand. Write out a couple of paragraphs for each one. Do the work on this. And then go back through with a highlighter and highlight the things that are common. And you will say the same thing in a couple of different ways. The reason for contextually, there will be a replay. I'll make sure everyone can get that. Thanks for asking, Will. There will be, the reason for writing your purpose statement writing those speeches from the perspective of multiple different people is that it's a lever for your thinking. It just teases out the thoughts and ideas in slightly different ways. So it's really a facilitator model, if you like. Through that, there'll be some common things, and you want to get that down to a short, sharp, powerful sentence that represents your sense of meaning in the business, the contribution you want to make, why you do what you do. Now, don't worry if it's not a marketing statement. It doesn't have to be, right? The corporations in the 1980s made a big problem with that, of crafting their vision statements as marketing statements, right? And they were criticized for not living out their own internal statements. They weren't on vision, on purpose, on mission. So we don't want to do that. You just want to write a purpose statement that's going to drive you and your employees. We can write marketing statements later. And of course, we have to write marketing statements and positioning statements and offers and so forth. And all of that needs to be aligned to the reasons why you're doing your business. But don't try and turn it into a marketing exercise. This is a leadership exercise, not a marketing exercise. Okay, everybody, look, I will have recordings. So you're on, if you've registered via by putting your email address in, and you've received the email with the link you're on today, then you will get a notification with the YouTube recording so you can watch again. I know there was a couple of people who were able to come in a little bit late today. There is also a members area that's on its way. Now, the first 50 or so people are going to be able to get free access to that, which is good. And then from then on, I'll charge a nominal fee to get access to the members area. But that will have not only the recordings, but it'll have some other resources. I tend to do a little worksheet for each of the exercises that we do on these midweek masterminds. So there is one about developing that purpose you can just print off, and it guides you through how to fill it in. So I'll make sure that you all know about that, and then you can go and self-register. There's no cost to do that, and you'll be able to be in that members area and have all those resources as well. Okay, if there's no more questions, I think I might finish off there and invite you all to come back once again for next week's midweek mastermind. Pass the word around. Just give people the b2bacademy.online link, and they can register that while they get all the reminder emails, and we'll build up a community here, and we'll help small business lead through difficult times. Okay, everybody, see you later. Bye for now.